Manager wouldn't let me leave to catch the shuttle early. First post, but here goes. This was a few years ago now. It was my first job out of college and I was an administrative assistant for some people. One of which was my direct boss. She very obviously didn't like me. There were tons of issues and false reporting, including assuming that any screw-up was my fault. I don't know why. There was never a past incident to make her think that. She never believed me when things got cancelled or when things weren't received on time. But I always had the email chains to prove it, to which she always said it wasn't my fault this time. Anyways, I had to shuttle from my parking lot to the office building. The shuttle ran every 15 minutes but tends to get there early. Now in this role, I didn't have a formal time punch to clock in on. Instead, I would put my hours in a timesheet at the end of the week. I always filled the timesheets in the same, putting 8 of 4:30 to total my 40 hours. But I tended to leave the physical building a few minutes before 4:30 so I could catch the 4:30 shuttle. The other co-supervisor type of person knew this and said it was fine. One day I get a call while I'm on the shuttle to handle something in the office. I apologize and say that I had already left for the day and was on the shuttle. She said, "It's 4:27. You should be working until exactly 4:30. I explained that I leave a few minutes early to catch the shuttle. Otherwise I would have to wait for the next one to come at 4:45, and it was made clear I wasn't paid for when I stayed past 4:30. I also explained that I also get in before exactly 8 a.m., so I was confident it made up the difference. She didn't believe me and wanted me to start recording exact time in and to stay until exactly 4:30. At the same time also, I was not allowed to exceed my 40-hour work week. So I did. I started putting in the exact time that I got into the office in my timesheet. And as it turns out, I was getting in way sooner than the few minutes I was leaving early to catch the shuttle. Friday comes and I can't work more than my assigned 40 hours. I tell her that I need to leave early today to make sure that I was still at the hour cap. Since I was coming in a few minutes early every day and not leaving until exactly 4:30. I had to leave about a half hour early that week. She was annoyed for sure, but let it go. This went on for a couple of weeks. But one week we had an event I had to come in early to help with. That early arrival plus my usual early time into the office meant that I had to leave a full 90 minutes early on Friday in order to keep my 40-hour standard. It just so happened that this Friday was when we had a new team member move into our offices. I was helping with the office setup and told her I had to go. It wasn't even 3 o'clock and I was in the middle of a task. I explained that if I stayed longer I would be over my 40 hours and would need to be paid for overtime. Now she was pissed. She said there is no reason I should leave this early. I explained that per her request I have been keeping track of when I arrive at the office and also not leaving until exactly 4:30 during the week. But since I was not overtime eligible I needed to leave now. And she was left to finish moving the new person in by herself. Unfortunately, aside from this one small victory, nothing changed. I requested a meeting with HR. Not reporting her yet but hoping to work it out. And my manager came with documentation arguing I was performing poorly. I pointed out flaws in her documentation. But the HR representative said that since I didn't have paperwork to prove it, she sided with my manager. For our next meeting with HR, I was prepared and brought an extensive folder of documentation to show my side of the story, per HR's request. And they told me we didn't need to look at my documentation because it wasn't important or relevant. Towards the end of the meeting I asked what I was supposed to do next. The HR member said to let it be. Or just quit. The very next day I put in my notice. I used to eat lunch at my desk and work past my 8 hours. My husband and I worked pretty close in the same city, so we drove just one car to work. He would drop me off and pick me up. As a result, I was in early and left late. So to pass time in the evening waiting for my husband, I would sit at my desk and read, but I was off the clock. If the phone rang or someone stopped by with a question, I would help. Until one day my supervisor said someone, I know it was the head of IT, said I was spending work time with my feet up and reading. I explained it was after my shift and I was waiting for my husband. She understood. But from that day forward until COVID and my role changed, I left my desk for 30 minutes for lunch and spent the time waiting for my husband in one of the comfy lobby chairs, reading. No more free work from me if someone was going to be a jerk about me being available after I clocked out. I used to be that person who would just work the extra 20 minutes or whatever was needed a day to get stuff done. I'd always go that extra mile for my company. Then my pay got docked for being late one day and I was being taken advantage of and expected to do all the extra things. I learned way too slowly that bosses very rarely value your hard work and you should value your own well-being and life over it. I'd love to say you let them win by quitting, but I think getting out of there was probably the best choice. Had a job that would tend to let out 10 minutes after the last bus. No malicious compliance. But I did negotiate some taxi rides in exchange for me not taking off before the end. I once worked in a restaurant that was on a main route in and out of Philadelphia. Consequently, we had many people who lived in the city and took the bus to get to work. One night everything you could think of went wrong and we were late in closing. Harris, his real name, because fuck that obnoxious prick, caught a busboy going out to catch the bus. He told him he couldn't leave until everyone else left. Said busboy advised him that if he missed the last bus he could not get home. Harris said, "It's not my problem." Busboy makes a move for the door and Harris decides to stand in his way. For a second, busboy lays Harris out with a single punch and proceeds to catch the bus. We saw him one more time. When he came to pick up his last check, he was greeted with a resounding round of applause from the whole staff. Except Harris. Your documentation wasn't relevant? Well, isn't that a kick in the teeth? They side against you when you don't bring any documentation. But when you do bring it, they say it's not relevant. Glad you left that job. Or just quit. We can resolve that here and now. What's your offer? I'm in the army, so we get salary. But generally you'll get 1.5-hour lunches every day. Way more than enough time. I went to recruiting, where it became a working lunch for those 3 years. Then to another role where we were all so busy that we would usually grab lunch and head back to the office while working and BSING. Most people we worked with would also work through lunch, so it was just normal. I then changed jobs to a unit 2 buildings down. Same battalion. Different company. On day 1. At lunch my new commander tells me he eats with his wife every day and heads out to do so. I do a little more work. Then go to the bathroom. It is eerily quiet in the building. And I realize I'm the only one there. So I decide I either take lunch or go to the gym from now on. One day, I hit the food court and see our highest-ranking civilian worker there. Now, I went early cause I was grabbing food and actually doing a working lunch because I needed to that day. But this dude was already there seated and eating right at the beginning of lunch. This guy makes well into 6 figures. Plus his military pension. I think he was an 06. So we're talking like $80,000 per year plus. Dude makes like 4 times my pay. takes lunch every day. Anytime one of my soldiers says they're working on lunch, I tell them that dude is already at lunch and he makes way more than both of us. So go eat lunch and worry about WORJ later. Just a quick comment as someone that's been involved with large corporations for a few decades. HR will almost never be on your side. No matter what they say. They are there to protect the company. Not you. Sucks. I know. But it's true. Honestly, I suspect your boss uses your position as official scapegoat and HR knows it. Whoever has that job gets tired of being a bully's punching bag and quits, and they just get a new person in. HR doesn't want to rock the boat because she is harder to replace than her whipping boy. But they try to not mention quitting because replacing you is more work for them. I do hope you reviewed them on Glassdoor and such. Every time a company begins watching the clock on its employees, the employees start watching the clock on the company. Company always lose in these situations. HR is there to protect the company and not the employees. It shouldn't be that way, but that is exactly how it is and always will be. The shuttle ran every 15 minutes but tends to get there early. It's not the real problem here, obviously. But I feel like this is worth a call to the shuttle department. If the shuttle's scheduled to leave at 4:30 but leaves at 4:28, that screws pretty much everyone. And also, having worked at a presumably similar place as op, I never understood why the shuttles didn't leave at 5 after. So people getting off at 4:30 could get down there by 4:34 and not have to wait another 15. Wouldn't it have been easier to align your working hours with the shuttle? Like making it official that you can finish at 16:25. Starting 5 minutes early? Leaving before the time you clock out just seems like something that would cause issues down the line. And it did. If you have similar issues in the future, do not do any work before your official start time. Get there whenever you do. But play on your phone or something until exactly your start time. Then get your systems up and running, etc. They can't make you work for free. As for the shuttle afterwards, at least it's only 15 minutes. Buses where I live run once an hour per route. You probably had a case for constructive dismissal. As others have said, companies don't care about you. I was working a lot of hours without charging time because I wanted to get things done and look good. My coworkers noticed and told me to charge more and even OT hours when I didn't do OT. One time I worked 4 night shifts and was supposed to have the next day off as the electricians got night premium in their pay, but I didn't. I ended up working because my coworker asked, but the deal to work 4 days was with my project manager. Once my project manager found out, he was pissed and said to charge 16 OT hours. I also worked a half shift Saturday. He told me to charge a full shift on Saturday. One time I told my project manager I was stressing over the weekend and he said to charge 4 extra hours. His words were, "Don't stress. Some stress is healthy, but the stress you are having isn't." He was such an amazing guy. Now I haven't worked since December 2020 because I have a medical condition. He was right. I burnt myself and neglected my body until it gave out and I literally lost 70 plus lbs among other issues. Now I'm paying for it. Remember, companies don't care. Take care of yourself. C. The mistake you made was during the second meeting with HR. You should have mentioned things like harassment and workplace bullying in relation to your manager's treatment of you. It's HR's job to protect the company. And they would have shit themselves if they thought you were going to sue the company using the documentation that you had that they refused to look at. Double malicious compliance story. Sweet. Gods, doesn't it feel great when HR looks at one side's paperwork and ignore the others? It's been over a decade, but I can still recall trying to settle a dispute at work versus a manager. And I showed up with a document that has over 30 signatures confirming I was dealing with a false report. They threw it away and said such things are irrelevant to the discussion. Then assured me my manager was correct and put me on leave. Always remember that HR is not there for you. They are there to protect the interests of the company.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.